Live again. Hello everyone and welcome to another Friday stream here. We're finally sort of back in motion a bit. Bit of a delay here with last week's. Had some ideas for last week's stream, but unfortunately kind of ran out of time working on everything else that hard at fixing for this playtest, so sorry about that. But here we are. We have a good content stream for 10.0, and anyone that hasn't seen me before, my name is Jens, working as lead game designer here at Strange Loop Games, and hoping to continually bring you fun stuff to both reveal and also kind of go over and get some feedback on players that enjoy it. And yeah, glad to see everyone here. So I think we can kind of kick off right away. Unfortunately, the stream title is a bit misleading. Sorry about that. But we are going to be talking about some balance changes that's coming up, and with that, some new crafting tables, some new intermediary items, as well as what we're doing to kind of even out the balance, particularly early game with cloth. That has been a large problem for us, both from a playing perspective, but also from a balance perspective, where plant fiber is a very abundant material. It uses very little fertilizer. You have it basically globally. So that's a large chunk of what I wanted to address with some of the changes that we've done to it. Which has also eloped into also doing some slight changes to our approach towards cotton as well, to be able to match it well with the new crop. So yeah, I think we can just kind of take it away first to some of the more scratchbooky things and some oversight into what we have done with it. If I switch over here to one of my Draw.io scratch sheets. So you can probably tell from the get-go dropping that in there. So what do we have here? We've got the three kind of paths that we are looking for, what leads up to the fabric tag. And yes, we'll have some gameplay footage here as well to kind of show off at least the crafting station. Unfortunately, the icons were not completely plugged in yet, so those will be something that you're gonna have to kind of look forward to see when you get into the playtest. But starting from a plant, as with both the cotton as well as the flax, the petroleum and the nylon path is a bit different because of the oil usage, so I don't think that needs saying a lot of, because it is more expensive in regards to both pollution impact, but I do want to touch on the economy of that one a little bit during the playtest, so I'll look forward to some of the numbers that's coming out of that, as well as kind of how it behaves on Tiger, as well as any other feedback I can get from players that do run servers that will opt into the playtest once it's live. Going from the start here, we've got a plant coming in from the left, we got the output product coming out from the right. The purple is indicating of a step processing, as well as the profession accompanying it. So from the top here, we've got this new flax plant that you harvest and you get flax stems from. And to some chagrin of some of the players I've seen commenting on Discord, it is a bit of a simplified step to it. There's a lot more in between, both prior to the scotching itself, but also post, to kind of deal with some of the debris and the water elements of processing for it. So that's kind of some of the steps that we've skipped to make it more of an both in line with the rest of the fabrics that we have, but also kind of make it more player friendly versus going super realistic with it. So we've got flax stem that you acquire from harvesting the plant. And you now have two kind of paths. And this is where we're diverting from what we had previously that a lot of players recognize with the cotton, where you would process the cotton from a farmer's perspective. And you would get both the cotton lint as well as the cotton seeds. Prior to the cotton lint acquisition, it was the cotton thread. So you always had that. You gained the goods as well as the seeds, and then the seeds turned into a massive pile of garbage that you just stacked up on high. And we'll come up on that in a bit here as well, as we have some new paths for that as well. So now you have a choice whether you want to add more plants and propagate the plants more, versus if you want the material that you use for linen and fabric and kind of process it into a tailored goods regardless of what type it is, which means that you're not going to be gaining both seeds and the sale option for it. You're going to be choosing between one or another. And one of the things that this has introduced is that gathering is now an actual mandatory step to a skill acquisition early on, because you're not going to get any linen, you're not going to get any cotton without having a gatherer specced up and skilled in gathering to be able to process it further. The farmer still does the seeds, which you'll need to keep expanding your farm field, but also for using for the seed produce. And then it kind of goes into your what you've seen before, where you have tailor table pushing out linen yarn or cotton thread, and then processing into the loom to turn it into fabric of different types. So how is this fundamentally different from before? Well, as I said, gathering being its own unique kind of deal, where previously you've never really had a use for it in terms of hard restrictions and gates of progression. That has changed. The loom to make fabric of any type uses yarn, so you're gonna need both a gatherer and a tailor to buy goods from as a carpenter to be able to produce the machinery for the tailor. And you kind of give a, if I have it here somewhere, working things around. So this is comparatively what it used to look like. So you had the plant fibers that anyone could harvest, you pushed it into a tailoring table with tailoring and output cloth and fabric, which meant anything that uses a fabric tag would be able to skip any of these other steps. So that's kind of where we wanted to factor in and get a good kind of rework, where we wanted gathering to have more of a meaningful impact early on, both as a gate and just as a useful profession. And that led into, I was looking around kind of what type of plants would make sense to change out cloth, because I didn't want to have plant fiber, wanted to replace it, and it hit me that we could use the most primordial resource that mankind has used for early age as a cloth material, and that was flax. Flax been turned into linen for basically forever. And here I can switch over to, I think if anyone has any questions. I know Dolaf had something about new crops. More just general, more crop variations is something that we're kind of looking at, but we also want to make sure that we have a meaningful variety path for them. So things like fruit trees and so on are something that we're looking at, but we also want to have a more smooth development process for adding more of these and make them useful in a lot of senses. I think we add them as we're comfortable with adding them, and making sure that they have a valid place in the game when they get added as well, just so they don't just get shoved in and you never look at them or you never use them, or they're just added for decoration and that's their only use. Mr. Chong, from a tailor perspective, what's the difference between cotton and flax? Seems very similar in terms of fabric. Yes. So at the current iteration of how plants work innately, cotton has the benefit of being reharvestable, if that makes sense. Where a plant won't die, similar to tomatoes, papayas, pineapples, and those kind of reoccurring harvestable plants, which is also something that we will address in the future. I have some plans with some experimentations into plant withering and plant, like everlasting plant age life, and kind of recycling the environment. But that's going to be way down the line, so I'll come back on that subject once we reach that point. But for 10, you have a fundamental difference in regards to the output usage of produce. So cotton seeds is, I've added a recipe for turning it into food oil. That has been tested on Tiger. I know a lot of people recognize that. So that's making it into the vanilla base game now, which means you do have that option of turning the cotton into seeds to be able to process it into food. There will be a similar recipe for the flax as well. However, the flax seed oil is going to be its unique, having its unique properties for lumber construction. So flax seeds will be able to be processed into their own flaxseed oil, which will be its unique oil type. It'll have a new oil tag, which is what's being replaced for all of the recipes that uses oil as an item before, with the fatty food oil. They're now using the oil tag, and that'll be shared with the flaxseed oil. However, the flaxseed oil in itself is also a proprietary resource to be used in lumber manufacturing. And something that I do want to touch on in the future is things like changing out to be more of a dynamic growth timer between farming fields and habitability. So that'll make a larger impact on it. But for now, you're looking at flaxseed oil, which will be required for lumber, which is another source of progression. So you're always going to need to keep farming linen, or keep farming flax, I should say. And the farmer still has high business for the flax seeds because they're used in manufacturing. And the tailor and the gatherer will have repeat business from the different types of fabrics because they're also being added in some of the modules as well. If we here in play mode just so it loads in properly. So that's kind of where we're looking at with the fabric route and the seeds and all that. Waiting for it to compile and do that. So this is something that also is a bit new for me on the stream. I usually use a built client to be able to have less potential conflicts due to the editor. It can have a bit of a feisty mood. Yeah, as Angel commented on Twitch there with the ancient people used linen, or used flax in particular, to be processed into a variety of goods such as the cloth and oil paints. And let me just do a bit of a trickery here. We have some interesting shader effects right now, as has been seen on Discord, and I believe I have a little trick here I got from Geo to get around that at the moment. There we go. That altered the coloration. Set the time here to noon. Do we wanna do? Wonder if this world had any decent grassland. It really didn't. That's fine. Do a plant. Not what we wanted to do, but almost. I think that if I can remember how the proper syntax is for this. There we go. That was not what I wanted. Not. Well, we got a flax plant at least. So this is the new flax crop. And there's likely to be some variations and moderations to doing some changes to the height of it. Just aesthetically to kind of mix in well with the rest of the crops it'll be surrounded around. But yeah, so that's another piece of decoration that you can use. And of course this is going to be, you know, seedable in pots and for the at the moment just like the bigger clay pots. We are looking at some solutions for going on and doing like the whole vase thing, but it is a bit of a tricky workaround that needs to be done to kind of make them work, and they might also be limited to certain species. But on the subject of flowers, kind of distracting here, as Angel mentioned here with the oil paints, we have the we've got the handle camera that you've seen before. We've got the tripod camera, which I believe was shown off at some point. Correct me if I'm wrong. It has been changed from a handheld tool to a world object that you deploy. So it's looking like this for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. And this thing adds a vignette overlay, and you can use all these cool features to do like timed shots and formats and some of the other interactions. So these use a new type of resource, which is a camera film, to be able to be used as ammunition, if you will, for each shot. And it uses paper and it uses light bulbs. For now, probably looking into doing some changes to that recipe further down the line once we're kind of getting into more variations with a few other workstations. And of course you've got the camera that you've probably seen as well, hopefully. It was on the stream with Toby and Geo. We've done some polish towards it. Did you guys fix the stutter effect? Are skipping frames usually the Unity problem? Having a 60Hz monitor and capping the game 30 FPS will make. Asking. That is a very good question. I think it's, I don't know, is it being weirdly depicted? Let me know if it's stuttering or causing any other issues. I haven't really streamed with Unity since I got my new graphic card, so I'm not sure. Let me know in chat if things are being wonky. So the camera. So why am I jabbing about camera? Oh yeah, it does seem like it's dropping it in 30 FPS. The brown patches that's coming up in the ground, or the green ones, they are cropping up because I leveled the terrain using a command that overrides the dirt type with grassland grass. So over time it'll convert into jungle grass, which is what's being replaced texture-wise for these patches. So why am I jabbing about cameras? Well, we have a third one that's being worked on right now, and it is the easel. As for the world object interaction for the tripod camera, there is some investigations into that, but at the moment it's just locked to the axis, unfortunately. So the easel has been a bit of a controversial object in regards to what you guys are expecting out of it versus what we are comfortable with doing in terms of like free reign creativity for just general world things. But what we've decided to do, at least for 10, we'll see if we revise it in the future. It currently is still a bit in progress, so it doesn't have its proper mechanics hooked up. So kind of broadly going over it, is that it'll work kind of the similar way as a camera. So you interact with the easel and it'll kind of give you the same nudge as the tripod camera, where it sets you into a position to take a frame of the environment that you're looking at, and then it'll paint that picture in the same way the photograph works, but it'll add it as a an oil painted layer shader on top of it. So for the people that dabble in media and art, it'll work similar to how the how Photoshop adds a kind of an oil painting distortion of the image. So you can take like nice scenery views and it'll look like an oil painting instead of just a photograph. And that thing then uses a completely different type of resource, because it wouldn't make sense if this one was using paper and light bulbs as well. So we added oil paints as an intermediary resource, which is acquired, or rather, hang on, let me workbench. So inside the workbench for now, we have art supplies. And like I mentioned before, the icons aren't completely plugged in yet, so we have these placeholder ones for now. So you have art supplies that is generated by, and these are combinable by anyone, but they are crafted using canvas and by using oil paints. And following down the route of the oil paints, they are made by the miller at a mill at the moment, and they are using colored powder and flaxseed oil. So this is once again bringing flax into a more universal approach, where it can be used in more intermediary ingredients and just have a more universal use rather than just this one-off piece. And that's kind of something we want to keep incorporating with more of the ingredients as we move on. So colored powders is acquired from the mill as well, and it is, grab a mill actually, grab a mill. So the miller is going to be busy for people that want to do some of these things. And we have colored powder, which is made by petals, and petal being a tag right now. And you can see some of the ingredients for it, and we'll go on the flowers as well. And here you also have the flaxseed oil, which is the flax seeds, and the oil paints, which is using that flaxseed and the colored powder. Really looking forward to seeing some more universal use for some of these strictly food professions to kind of get them more involved, as has been a really high request from a lot of people. The colored powders is made from these flowers, and that is bringing us back into the plants region. So something that have been requested for quite a while, but has never really just been realized due to any number of reasons, really. We have added seeds to the orchids. So now that you harvest orchids, you can turn them into seeds. Kind of similar as any of the other crop related things. So now you can actually farm plants and the general flowers and have an actual solid use for them. So now you can have massive fields of orchids if you want in the jungle regions and some of the hotter climate. As Lord Zack here, think there was already an orchid seed, but no recipe to make them. There was a seed in the game that you could acquire from harvesting the plant, but the plant was never an individual item because it only generated plant fiber. So there was never an individual plant item unique to that crop. And we have 3 flowers that are related to this. We have the creosote flower, which is acquirable inside the desert. We've got the orchid in the jungle, and then we got the trillium that is a bit sort of scattered in grassland and for forests. So that is kind of tying in some more use there. And we're constantly kind of eyeballing and seeing where we can get these ingredients involved in other areas as well. That's something that I look forward to as we're constantly just keep upgrading and keep looking at what we can add, where it makes sense, and just be more enjoyable and fill out the game more, both in the early stages, but also kind of moving up into middle area and the late game. The big blue stem is unfortunately still just a plant fiber. I've been looking over some of these things. I do want to add some more flower uses and some more flower acquisitions from some of these, like the what are these called? My head isn't really with me here. The heliconia. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for. So these still acquire just plant fiber. And it is going to be something that we're progressively just adding more of as we have time and space and assets, particularly from art, as I'm stealing a lot of their attention to get some of these plants and crops and interactables into the world. I want to add some for the ocean spray as well. That's currently only yielding plant fiber still. So it's only these 3 particular flowers. Hopefully it shouldn't be that far off to be able to start adding a bit here and there. Same thing for the button bush, and add more just like a general use, so a large variety of the plants inside the ecosystem has a use somehow. And that's kind of part of on my plate to work around and kind of see what we want to do and into what extent we want usable as well. So with so the plants and the new flowers are acquired. They're harvested in the same way. You can turn them either into colored powder or you can turn them into seeds, and you can farm them in a bigger field. That'll be more. It'll be interesting to see if there is gonna be any use for it. So I'm looking forward to getting some feedback on that, so please let me know, hit me up. But on the subject original, as you can see, you've got some flax here, thriving in the wild. Don't mind the highlight, it's a little bit cured. You get flax stems, turn it into seed or fiber. Let's really, you can pull up the interfaces bit. Dragging it up there so it's more, a little bit more readable. With the linen and flax, That fiber scotching station, what is that? How does it work? What does it look like? Well, you've been hanging around the Discord. You have probably seen it somewhere around. That up there. Scotchy. And this is what this Doomsday device is looking like. So the operation of it is basically you're standing here, you're pushing down the pedal or yeah, just causing in mechanical power in the real life equivalent version of it. So you would hold a bushel of linen or flax stems over here, and they would smash like repeatedly just cycle through and break it up. I wonder if I can spawn one instead. If I'm placing myself on the south side, let's do a spawn. Just as like the well, that died. Unfortunate. Yeah. I still have some minor issues with some of the old commands using the new settlement system, so that took a bit of a dive. It'll be back up in a few seconds. But hey, you know, no stream would be fantastic without breakage. And this is almost kind of leaning into that secret that we had on that topic. Force enable only works on the civic object. It needs to be using the old no requirements, but the no requirements is in a bit of a rework. Hello, Lunaku. Strange Loop Games is the company behind the game, and it's been in early access since 2018 of Steam release, and then it's been a year prior, I believe, that it was acquirable through the regular web store. And we have a pretty decent... Why is the map not wanting to let me... Go away, shoot, thank you. Did no requirement work? It really doesn't want to do that. Let's just do a manual one. Level. For anyone that's using commands, this will be a neat trick. PM. Let's do brick. I believe we can get away with, and we want to do 10 by 10 by 10. What's that? There we go. Grab another fiber sketching stick. And so now we have a valid room that we can place this in. So here you can see that we require gathering. It is creating flax fiber, and it is causing plant fiber generation when you are crafting it. And this is a fractional, so make sure to use modules to upgrade. But also making sure that you're making more of them, so you're not getting as much of a buildup of that byproduct. Now you've probably seen this tab here. Another little secret. I wasn't planning on going into much on it, but we can probably go over that as well. So yeah, Zach, not only are gatherers getting their own crafting table, but they even have their own module. So rejoice, you now get to join the module competition, get some of those tier 3, tier 4 modules when that is in as well. Is there an ETA on when 10 comes out? No, but we do have a playtest on White Tiger that is planned to be coming out on Wednesday. at the current state. Not gonna promise it because I'll get shot by Dennis if I do. And I know a lot of the White Tiger people here are fanatical in regards to hyping that up. So I'm just gonna avoid saying anything definitive. And then Dennis isn't there. Unsupervised streams. Go, go, go. Reveal everything. No, it's we're really churning it hard to make sure that we do meet that. And I'm really hoping that we manage to make sure that that is also delivered, because we are looking forward to the playtest as well internally. I know myself is really kind of waiting for some of those bigger interaction fixes to make it properly playable, which is also introducing a new functionality for moving an object. There was something else. Well, actually, since we have the object here and we're talking about it, let's just click it. Not entirely sure on the state of this thing. I don't want to go into too much of a detail, as this is a fairly new implementation for me. I haven't worked on it. This was something that our fantastic CEO added in for while working on the civic things. As he was looking at the cultural parts and how culture and the paintings and kind of alleviating some of the pains for selling these objects, and things like adding a whole bunch of different paintings in the stores. How are you going to be able to tell which painting is which? Is it just going to pull one from the inventory? So to kind of mitigate that a bit, but also help build more of a realistic furniture shop, as Ellery just commented, that is actually part of the intention of it. So the goal here is that you can set up an object and have it for sale, and then you set the price and you set the currency for what you want it to be sold as and at, and also make sure that you have the account selected and so on. And you go in here and you like set a price for it, and bam. So here you can see that you now have a choice to actually buy stuff in the world when you're interacting with them. And as you can see, it's my object, I'm selling it, yet it's still trying to get me to buy it. So there's still a few quirks that we're hammering out to make sure that the authorization levels are working, and so on and so forth. But this is applicable to basically anything, as is the intention. So you could do, we go outside here, for example. What do we want to do? Just for kicks. Apparently we don't. How do you even spell wheelbarrow? One of the same. Grab this. So this doesn't have a component because it's not set up yet. So it's something that I'm looking to do. So you could do like vehicles, and just anything. So you could have an actual showroom and you can place these objects and you can sell the objects. So you buy them and then they transfer the authorization to the player that bought it, and then they can just pick it up. At least at the moment. We are probably, as Alpenglow commented, if it goes straight into your inventory, do you need to pick it up? We'll probably look at changing it out a little bit to the point where you're trying to buy it, it checks if it can fit in your inventory, make sure that you have the weight capacity for it, and then it immediately transfers into your inventory. So the buy action would be kind of like a pickup action. So yeah, there's a couple of goodies in there that's coming in there. So another kind of sneaky thing that I've been working on today, as roads were causing a bit of a problem. Bit lower here. As roads were a bit of a problem as we remade the whole interaction system, I took a deep dive into the stone roads. And I know it's been shared a GIF on the Discord about it, but we can show it off here. road. Do that. So you all remember the pain of placing stone road and versus building stone roads. I'm not sure in what state this is right now. Wanting to be placed? Oh. Far away from that. Did a recompile just before the stream, so it's not behaving the way I wanted it to behave. Why is it not doing what I wanted it to? That is a very good question. I love stream surprises. It is fantastic. On Earth. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Ooh. I know what I did. I think I know what I did. It was working 10 minutes prior to the stream, and then I pushed it and made a PR for it to get into the project, and then of course it doesn't work for the stream. But yeah, so it'll be working by Wednesday at least. It now has forms. So you can now do... it's breaking a bit all over here. Well, the issue is the same. But I think I know why. Just... I think we can do like an intermission here. It's like... be right back. Just gonna check this quickly to see what actually broke here. I think it might have something to do with the fact that it crashed the server prior, and that might have actually broken my editor combination, which could be fun. That is fine. We are all good, I think. But you get the gist of it. Okay. That. I just dodged away from checking the older thing here. Roads. But the general gist of it is you now have block forms for the buildable stone roads and the stone ramps, and hopefully that will be a huge quality of life thing people are looking forward to. What are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? And we can go through. Yes, the stone road. So if someone is interested in seeing how some of these projects are actually looking like behind the scenes, see some of these setups here where roads. So this is kind of how the back end stuff is looking with these magnificent built objects, road types, stone roads. I think I know what happened. I know what happened. things kind of substantially broke when I commit and didn't properly update that one. That's fine. Unfortunately, we're not gonna get footage of that at the moment. Magically updates on its own here. But I can show you something else that I've been working on while I was digging through and making those changes to the stone road as I was going through just the regular ramps across the board. Waiting for Unity to load back in here and we can take a look. See if there's other assets that I broke. That is what happens when you get distracted by fixing one thing and then you end up fixing 10 other things and then it breaks in the last second when you're trying to show that you fixed it. So if we transition back into here, if we're leaving that alone for a bit, all dev tool, we can grab the dev tool and we can do that. So Toby suggested I be sneaky about this, but I didn't really have time to pre-prep a test scene for that. So I'll just do this. Give dirt. Great. And this change also went away. Why is Unity playing tricks on me today? That is annoying. It is really not liking me today. Why, oh why? Is it gonna be nice with the other thing? Yeah, I know you still appreciate. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want it to work out. I believe I'm actually gonna have to lower the UI scale here to be able to fit this in the screen with the editor. So this is bricks. Gonna play nice? Yeah, you are gonna play nice. Okay, so that works. Woohoo! We have something that works. Partially. We almost had something to work. And apparently only the third one in that specific direction. Yeah, that's pretty neat. But yeah, so we added some brick wraps. I'll take a look and see why that one's direction is incorrect, but that's all good. So this will be something new for people to build, both interior and exterior, and you know, build fancy roofs or bridges or pieces of decoration or however crazy you want to get with these. No, they are not a road. So they're not counted as something that gives you special speed modifiers. Partially because that would be like applicable to any brick. So you could add a bunch of brick windows, and you could drive a road on, or you can drive a car on them, and they would be counting as roads. So it is possible to just add in there and give it a road value, and it'll be counted as a road if you want to do that locally yourself. But at the moment, they're just basically working kind of like the composite and the ashlar type of just 4 slotted slopes. And I wonder, since that is actually working, my asphalt ramp white edge line next. Since that's working, this might actually be working as well. So this is something that I think a lot of people are also going to be stoked about. At least hoping that. Where we kind of simplified building staircases quite significantly. in the form of just be able to use the line form here. So now you can actually kind of move around and really kind of build quicker when you're digging down, or when you're just like rebuilding, and then add more navigatability towards your caves and everything else. I'm really sad over not being able to properly play the ramps. What I did, infuriating. I'll drop an image of the different ramps on Discord. But essentially, I fixed up so any road ramp that goes up against terrain is also properly merging into terrain. Does the brick ramp work as an aqueduct? No. Partially because water is still a bit janky when it comes to ramps, because it needs to be existing in the same tile as another solid object in that regard. The water is kind of a continued thing that we're looking at, just constantly kind of improving and poking at and getting to a better state. But yeah, and I'm probably gonna get chewed up from Dennis because I did forget one thing on the stream. Just like keep on the stream. And I'm not sure if anyone picked up on it. I forgot to have on. Is back. Just down. There we go. Ha! It was there the entire time. I promise. Anything that you are seeing breaking and not really working 100% is obviously a result of this build being a work in progress for 10.0 update. Letting that out there. I completely forgot to mention it in the beginning. Sorry for that. Yeah, Zach, I did mention that it was on the staging branch, but that is also a bit nondescript towards people that aren't super familiar to the terms that we're using to describe our pipeline for development. So what we mean with staging is that we have 3 or 3.5 kind of a process of manufacturing pipeline when it comes to updates. We have our development branch, which is where we're doing wildly experimental things that are expected to be non-playable because things are being kind of prototyped together and putting in and just like mechanically seeing if they're valuable, if they make sense, if they're fun to play with, and so on and so forth. Once we're happy with the contents of an update, we merge it down to the staging branch, which is where all the polish is happening. And then on stable versions of the staging branch where things are working mostly as intended, in a state where they won't cause explosions when you're just playing the game normally, we take snapshots of that and push it to the playtest branch. And the playtest branch is therefore a lot more stable, but can still cause problems. Once the staging is polished to a state where we're happy and it's really rigid and stable, we'll push it down into release branch, and then that's where the kind of final polish and QA passes are done. And then once everyone is happy, it gets pushed out and actually released. So just because someone mentions that it's on the release branch doesn't necessarily mean that it is actually released live to the public in that. Hopefully that helped clarify any questions that you have it. Armored Stone, can you show us the icon on the minimap looks when you make an avatar picture? Don't think we saw it yet. Ooh, I'm not entirely sure it's 100% operational on the branch I'm on right now with my current one. I might have to jump into main menu and then go through, because it is having like a weird shadowy thing. And I believe they went over the webcam feature and all of that with geos and the face tracking. It's a lot of fun. It's really weird. It's a ton of fun, and it irks me out every now and then. But it is quite enjoyable, and it's gonna make things look really cool, as well as scare the crap out of myself when people are gonna be walking around and you're gonna see the facial expression of people that are using it. We just do that, and then we hit continue. And then we'll see. I don't know if it was actually pushed with that fix. I know I've seen something about the avatar portrait in the flow. So this is just kind of winging it, coming up on an hour, so leading towards kind of the end of the stream, and we're just like free floating, winging it at the moment. Yeah, so the functionality for it is not yet there, but the general concept being that the portrait that you take in the avatar screen is gonna be transferred over to your actual portrait in game, as well as kind of in the tooltip when you're showing off and seeing people, properly seeing like their character or their avatar photo. Yeah, did we have any other general questions? I think everyone just seems very happy over the flax changes and the cloth, so really happy to see that. Is looking pretty neat. When White Tiger starts playtest for version 10, is it gonna be open for everyone? I'm gonna leave that question to Dennis, because I'm not entirely 100%. I would presume so, but I'm also very skittish in giving a definitive answer to that, because I know how pressured that server tends to be. If it is open to the public, it will have a player limit cap and a queue on it, just to make sure that it doesn't constantly just go down due to being bombarded by people trying to log in on it. Setting up the avatar clothes with the ability to choose any even before entering the server, does that not break the income of the tailor? Who will buy his clothing if you can customize your image in advance? So the clothing that you're able to customize in the avatar creation screen is limited to a set of starting clothes similar to the character creation worked priorly. Up to, I believe at this point, we still haven't added that limitation in which clothing are available to be taken. But you are going to be locked to your like basic set of clothes plus the like the backer decoration stuff, which is, I believe, at the moment we have them in here. So through your void storage, you've got the alpha backer rewards as well as the wolf whisper if you have wolf whisper. If I know correctly, using a lot of loss can cause issues with server stability and lag. Are there any changes to 10.0 to improve how that's handled? There's been a continuous just refactor and upgrade to that system and how it's handling a lot of that structure. Is there going to be a concern for how that potentially can impact a server? Absolutely, which is something that we're we're really making sure that we're looking at. We're also very appreciative for any servers that do want to, and any players on those servers that do want to help out with taking memory snapshots and sending them our way to allow us to kind of debug and go through profiling and checking the memory usage. Just going to optimize it further, because it is very difficult for, while we still have a decent staff, it's hard to account for all of the different types of hardware limitations people have, as well as just the general hardware combinations that they have. So they might experience different types of issues depending on what they have in their rigs, as well as what the server hardware is at. But it is at the current state of loss in pre-10. You also had the issue of all loss constantly went over all players of the server versus the regionalized loss that only impact specific people. So a law that would be scanning for, say, paying someone like a universal basic income or a UBI, where if this is happening inside a town, it only needs to scan for the valid people inside and registered to that town. So it would only be going on, say, 10, 15, 20 people, rather than the entire population of the server. So there's a lot of kind of granulation in how laws are being processed in the different towns, versus something that is globally applying for things like a larger federation in this case, or as the old global laws did. But it is something that we are monitoring constantly, and as I said, if you have issues on the servers that you are running this to, and wanted to help out, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can forward you to our tech staff, or to Dennis, and he can pass it on as well. Preferably deal with Dennis, since he's mostly active on the community managing side. But yeah, looking forward to making 10 as awesome as we can, and keep throwing in these kind of nuggets with just more goodies that I can do from my end. And I've got a lot of things planned post 10, so I'm really itching to get this playtest going so we can get some feedback and I can start adjusting some of the values. So yeah, it's gonna be a blast, I think. I do have some further information on some more plant changes that we've done that I'll talk about in an upcoming stream as well. Leaving that in there since we went over this for a better part of an hour here. That I want to catch on. We've got some further seeding changes and that I started talking about in the plant generation change stream. So if you're unfamiliar with that one, catch up on it. That's on YouTube. And I'll catch you on the next stream. Thank you everyone for watching, and hope you have a great midsummer here. We're celebrating it here in Scandinavia and Sweden. I'll be gone for tomorrow and enjoying some good food, some good company, and hope everyone does the same. So take care, have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next stream.